everybody. Welcome to Before College TV Live. I'm Harlan Cohen. It's another college conversation. Today, we're talking to Harvard students. Hey, panel, can you see me? Can you hear me? A big wave. This is exciting. We have three unbelievably interesting, dynamic, charismatic guests today. Am I building it up too much?
Maybe a little.
Perfect. It's perfect.
Perfect.
I'm unbelievably interesting and dynamic. I don't know what Jamie's talking about.
I think that everybody should feel that. It's just a matter of how we communicate it. But certainly, I would say that that's true. And one of the things that's super cool, and you can tell, I'm using my extra intellectual vocabulary, because when I pull out super cool, I'm pulling it all out. Having students from Harvard is kind of fun because, who doesn't want to go to Harvard, right? Like Mckynzie, did you want to go to Harvard?
Not for a while, actually.
Oh, look at that. Big surprise.
Yeah.
Where did you really want to go, Mckynzie?
I was essentially choosing between Harvard and UConn. I received a scholarship to go to UConn, and I was going to be in this program, and I had visited both schools. I really liked the campus, and I sort of made the decision down to the wire, like very last minute. I ended up choosing Harvard because I was going into languages. I wanted to study Romance languages, and it came down to that department for me.
Wow, like that's fascinating that you were even confused or conflicted. Was it the money issue, or was it just the department?
It was the academics. Yeah, my parents encouraged me to make the decision most based on where I wanted to go to school. And I'm pre-med, but studying languages was what I knew I wanted to do with my major, and that was paramount to me. So I I'd gotten to know the people in the language department, in the Romance language department at Harvard, and I really jived with the people there, that department, the professors I had met. So it really just came down to that.
Wow, that's really interesting, because I would have thought, like, you get into Harvard, it's like, bye UConn. But you really have a lot of respect for UConn's department. I would love for you to speak to that, because there are going to be more people who have access to UConn and the languages there. So just speak to me about why that was so interesting to you, and some of the positives.
Absolutely. So I love UConn as a school. I mean, I really like their campus. I'm partial to rural campuses for some reason. I had met a member of the Italian department, a professor. I don't quite remember if he was a professor, if he was the head of the department. He was a really nice guy, and I really appreciated talking with him. The admissions team that I had spoken with at UConn were all honestly just the nicest group of people.
Yeah.
The people and the students I had met at UConn, I really enjoyed talking with. Their departments had, like, the Italian department especially seemed to have a lot of opportunities and be really open to working with students based on whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, they were very open to you studying multiple things in conjunction with their department and making it as easy for you as possible. That was also really important to me, because I'm pre-med, but my major is Romance languages, and I'm doing a minor in psychology.
Okay.
So my schedule is always full of, like, classes in different departments, and UConn was really willing to help me out with that.
That's wonderful.
It didn't end up, being where I went to school, but I did really appreciate how much they were willing to work with me on that.
Yeah, I think that's great. And for all of you, if students have interest in anything you're talking about, and I ask this question very clearly because I know a lot of students are reluctant to actually reach out. You've included your social media, a way for students to contact you and reach out to you. Do you want students who have questions to reach out to you?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Are you sure about this?
Yes.
Is it weird or awkward if they reach out to you? Are you going to think they're a loser?
No.
No, right. You're like so confused. Why would I even ask that ridiculous question? But I ask this because there are so many students, like someone might have heard this UConn piece and want to talk to you, and not just about Harvard, but just your experiences. And I want to make it clear that Jamie, Andrew, and Mckynzie, you are in Students' Corner. You are people who are in Students' Corner, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, you are one of their people. Great. Well, I just want to make that very clear because I really love it when students can actually connect and reach out. And if the panelists here don't have the answers, there's someone they know who does have those answers. So Andrew, tell me, how do you know Jamie and Mckynzie?
I actually don't know Mckynzie. Uh,
Can I
but
introduce you?
sure, go ahead.
So Mckynzie, I'd like you to meet Andrew. Andrew Mckynzie, this is great. So you have not met before.
We have not.
No.
Oh, this is exciting. And Jamie, you know Andrew pretty well, right?
Yes, I know both of them.
Oh, this is wonderful. So I find in these introductions, it's always best if we have the person who knows both people share a little bit about each person. So with Andrew and Mckenzie's permission, do I have your permission?
Hmm.
Absolutely.
You don't even know I'm asking permission for it, but thank you for giving it. I didn't really ask the question. You
it
kind of
is
get
what
what's
it
going to
is.
happen.
It won't be too crazy.
So Jamie, I would love your most honest assessment of, why Andrew is someone, worthwhile as a human being, and Mckynzie, and you can share that. So tell me a little bit about Andrew, and then tell me a little bit about Mckynzie.
Yeah, so I know Andrew through Hyperion Shakespeare Company. I'm president, he's vice president. So we've worked together for a couple years now, running that. That's Harvard's only Shakespeare organization on campus. So we do lots of fun shows and events related to Shakespeare or early modern England in some way. And so we met through that because Andrew is very knowledgeable in Shakespeare. He carries the complete works of William Shakespeare with him almost everywhere. Is that wrong? I just feel like every time I talk to you, you can like pull it out and be like, I have the complete works. Let me fact check that quote.
I keep it in my backpack in case I get bored on the train.
Yeah, so.
Can you show me, Andrew, can you show me your Shakespeare?
The book itself?
Yes, anything. I want to know if it's within arm's length.
It is, it's on his bookshelf.
This.
That's it, man. That's it.
Yeah.
I have been brought to task many times with that book because you can't drop Shakespeare knowledge in the room without Andrew being like, "Gonna check that line."
Yeah.
Just gonna pull out my Shakespeare, which is
So
very helpful to have
Absolutely.
actually when you're running a Shakespeare organization.
I can only imagine. Shakespeare, I struggle with Shakespeare. And Andrew, maybe if we get to know each other, maybe we could do like a quick 15-minute crash course on like how to hack Shakespeare, because I always end up feeling a little dumb because
That's not good.
I know I'm embarrassed to say that, but Shakespeare is always like, because there's always like two or three, there's so much subtext and there's references to other pieces, and I can't understand it.
We're actually through Hyperion working on some projects this summer to help students and out of school people like yourself with hacking, as you said, Shakespeare and understanding it and kind of making it more engaging in people's lives. So
that'd be super.
Check us out to find out those projects.
That'd be really fun to do. I think like having young kids be interested in that. So and then can you speak to Andrew's character so Mckynzie can kind of get a flavor of that?
Yes. In true Shakespearean terms, he is a total gentleman, if you will. And Andrew's really nice. He's a great person to be around, very reliable. Which is hard to find in college, I feel sometimes. I feel like a lot of college students are very flaky. Andrew's not, so that's very nice.
Yeah.
I don't know, any more praise you want me to heap upon you, Andrew?
Honest, I think that's pretty impressive. Andrew, do you agree with Jamie's assessment of you?
I mean, I try to be reliable. I figure if I sign up, I'm in the Shakespeare Company and I'm expected to do some kind of work, and I ought to at least do it well, consistent.
Yeah. And that's helpful. And just to fill in some of the other blanks, Andrew is a rising senior, so is just finished that junior year, the COVID-19 junior year, the bizarro year, and is a history and literature major, vice president of the Hyperion Shakespeare Company, and also you're involved with the Harvard YouTube channel. You love the YouTube channel too.
Yep. Yes. That the YouTube channel didn't really. It kind of went on hiatus last semester, but last fall semester I was pretty involved with that with
Are you talking about on Harvard time?
writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie's also.
Oh, I did that for a couple years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I was checking that out too. So it's really interesting. Great. And now, Jamie, if you can help us to understand Mckynzie. Now, I understand, what is your relationship with Mckynzie?
Mckynzie and I were roommates this year.
Wow. So you know a lot. So Mckynzie, there might be some boundaries here that you want to. Is there anything off limits?
No, I didn't do anything to you, right, Jamie?
No.
Okay, Jamie. So help Andrew to understand and everyone else understand a little bit more about Mckynzie.
Mckynzie always has 30 more things on her plate than the average human could handle. She is majoring in Romance languages, which means she speaks fluently Italian, French, English. She knows a decent amount of Yiddish. She's currently teaching herself Spanish. Did I miss any? No? That's it? Okay, good. But on top of all that, she's also pre-med. So she's constantly in like classes like organic chemistry that I do not understand because I do humanities and my bare minimum of science in archaeology. So she is a very impressive student. She's also very fun. She's recently gotten me into Star Trek, which has been an exciting time. We have a very nerdy room. We have like posters from Marvel on the walls. Yeah. And we have two other roommates. We live in a suite, so it's like 4 singles, room, bathroom situation.
You're on campus. Are you in a residence hall?
Yeah, so almost everyone at Harvard College lives on campus in what's called the house system. So it's 12 houses, I think, 12 residential houses. They're not like literal like homes. It's like dorm buildings, but they're called houses. And Mckynzie and I are in Quincy House. Our mascot is the penguin.
Is that the best house to live in?
Hands down.
I mean, yeah.
We didn't even have to say it.
What did you say,
Andrew,
Mckynzie?
We didn't even have to say it. It's just implied with the name.
When I said our mascot is the penguin, you should have really implied it from there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, absolutely. And Andrew, are you in a house?
I am not in the house. I live just off campus.
Okay.
My roommates are also Harvard students, though.
Oh, great. Okay. So you guys have your own place. And is there a reason you didn't choose to live in a house?
It's not an option. Well, I think there is on-campus housing, but it's much more expensive. But also the on-campus housing that I would be allowed to live in wouldn't be the same, wouldn't be within the 12 houses of the college.
So will you explain that? Because I know that you choosing Harvard and your Harvard experience, you're explaining is a little bit different. So help us to understand that.
So in high school, I really only started thinking about college like my final year. And I was thinking about going to UCLA or the American University of Paris to study film. I decided I didn't want to go to college right away. I graduated in 2016. And I'm from New Hampshire, which is it's like an hour and a half drive from Boston, from Cambridge. I wanted to move out, so I moved to Boston, started working, and to kind of stay busy and beef up my resume, I started taking classes at the extension, which is basically you give Harvard some money and you can take their classes and
right.
Anyone
can do that, or do you have to?
Yeah,
anyone can do
it. Anyone can do it. I think there's an age. When I started, there wasn't an age limit. Now there's like I think you have to be like over 21 or something.
Okay.
I don't know the details of that, but I did that for a little bit. I kind of just kept with it, and eventually I took enough classes that I was eligible to apply for a degree.
Really?
Yes.
That's wild. So
yeah.
You could take enough, so you don't have to go through all of the crazy admissions process. And if you take Harvard extension classes, enough of those, you can qualify or.
Yeah. You have to take, I think you have to pass a semester with a certain GPA, which again, I don't remember. to be eligible, and you apply. I don't know. I'm sure the application process is much different, but I had to write an essay and I had to, turn in all this.
Is that competitive to go from the extension to be eligible for the degree?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think it's kind of just like a, you meet these requirements and then you're eligible. It didn't feel very cutthroat.
But you're also like a pretty smart dude. Just, I mean, you carry the complete work of Shakespeare in your backpack.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Right. So that's how you did that. So what is going to be different when you graduate? So now you're in this program.
Mhm.
So you're taking classes with, do you take classes with Harvard students, or are you in the Harvard extension?
It's separate. It's separate from college classes, but it's usually the same professors. If not, like the majority of my professors and classes are just, the same as the college. But after the college classes, they'll have the extension classes at
Yeah,
night.
you're in the same buildings as us as
Yeah,
well.
it's all the same buildings and mostly the same professors. If not, usually the professors come from. I've had professors from BU and Tufts as well.
Right. And then when you graduate on your degree, what will the
It's
degree
the degree is different, which is a point of controversy, especially now with all the move to online classes and alternative styles of learning. But the degree says a Harvard University in Extension Studies.
Mm-hmm. So there's that little piece, but it's still, I mean, for all purpose, you're a graduate of
Yeah,
Harvard.
it's still a Harvard degree. There's debate whether or not it's more or less valuable or.
Right. Do people look at that the same way?
I'm not. I don't know. I'm not in
Yeah.
the. I haven't gotten into like the work climate
Right.
yet, but I'm not sure. I mean, yeah. I don't really know.
Yeah, and I ask the questions. I just ask questions I think people would be thinking, or questions that I'm thinking, because I mean, you're clearly doing the work. You are getting the same instruction from a lot of the same professionals. So clearly, the quality of the education you're getting seems to be at par with the students who have the Harvard University degree. I mean, it's like, I hate to even ask the question because it's like so ridiculous, because like, who cares? It's like the bigger part of me is like, who gives a crap? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I find it fascinating that if somebody wants to have that experience and to be in the community and to live that, like that's another path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I think it's definitely a different experience than the college experience than to be in Harvard College. And I think that there's definitely sometimes there's a stigma, I think, too. Kind of like you didn't earn it the same way we did. A lot of clubs won't accept like students from outside the college, which can be kind of annoying. But
So you have to deal with rejection within the community, where if you're part of the extension, we're not going to allow you to be part of this organization or that organization.
Yeah, but I think the community is kind of, and maybe the college students can speak to this better, but I think it's pretty competitive anyway. So I don't know if it's, I don't know. I think college students probably have issues with community as well.
Jamie, you look like you want to speak to this.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it is kind of complicated because, like, I will say Andrew applied to be on Hyperion and everything before I did, so I wasn't involved with deciding whether or not he would make it into the organization. But I think if I recall correctly, there were some students from the college who were very against letting an extension school student in, which I've never understood, because if you talk to Andrew, he knows more about Shakespeare than 99.999% of the actual Harvard College students I've met, so it would be completely idiotic to not let him into the Shakespeare Company. But I think a lot of that comes from like students' own insecurities, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know, because like for me, like obviously when you reach out to me about this panel, like I didn't think twice about like saying like, yeah, Andrew's a Harvard student, so he should do the panel. Like I think that there might be some college students who like would be like, well, he doesn't technically go to Harvard College, so but I just think that distinction is kind of dumb.
Well, I think it's awesome that you're here. And I think it's awesome that you can show another path. And I think it's incredible that you can have these experiences. And the fact that you choose to be there and to get the education you're getting is something that, you go after it, man.
Mhm.
So it's like, that part of like what you want and going after it is where I find it inspiring and exciting. So that's great. Jamie, one more question about Mckynzie and her character. Did you speak to her character? I know you said she's super busy, but she's got a lot on her plate. She's got a lot of languages, but like, tell me a little bit about like, her character, her values, who she is as a
She's a deeply good person, I would say. I mean, I choose to live with her, so it would be questionable if I were like, oh, I think she's a bad person, but I'll live with her anyway.
Never know. You might want to punish yourself.
Oh dear. Oh no. No, she's a really, really kind, loyal friend. She will fight to the death for those she deems her people and her friends. So that's very admirable, I think.
That's very exciting. So Andrew, I hope that gives you a good sense of Mckynzie. And Mckynzie, hopefully Andrew, you know, who knows, maybe you can continue to have a friendship. This could be the beginning of something, who knows, of a long friendship, which would be wonderful. Great. I'm glad we could bring people together. So Jamie, I want to know, was Harvard your first choice? Where did you really want to go?
Kind of like Mckynzie, I didn't grow up with this dream of like must end up at Harvard. Quite the opposite, in fact, because my older sister actually got into Harvard and went there. So for a long time, I was of the mindset, I will never go to Harvard. I will never go there. It's not where I want to be. I want to be different, you know, all those things. And since I was little, I actually had a dream that I would go to College of William and Mary in Virginia, because one of my cousins went there and I visited, and I was like, it's next to Colonial Williamsburg, and I'm very much a history nerd. So that very much spoke to like 7-year-old me. So I ended up actually applying to William and Mary, and I got a very good financial aid package from William and Mary. And at the same time, I also got into Harvard because my parents made me apply to Harvard because they have a really good financial aid program. So if you get in, it's usually very affordable. So they're like, you're not applying, like apply to Harvard. So I applied and I ended up getting accepted. And so then from there, it was, I'm sure a lot of students can relate to this. You know, you go through, you make your pros and cons list. I always say it's very challenging because when you're applying to college, you have to kind of put yourself in the mindset that this university is where I want to go, and I'm going to be happy here. And you have to do that for every single college. And then when you are presented with options, you've already sold yourself on all of them so much, it becomes very difficult to like choose, because you always feel like you're somehow letting a part of yourself down. But it ended up actually, the final two were Williams College, which is in Massachusetts in the Northwest, and Harvard. And I ended up doing the visiting weekends for both, which thankfully for the West Coast to me was the same weekend. So I was able to only have to do one trip back east. And then I just kind of fell in love with the small departments within the larger university aspect of Harvard. So I'm in history and literature as my primary department. I have a joint major, double major in archaeology. Both of those are incredibly small departments, so I get the kind of individualized attention that you would get at a smaller college, but within these massive resources that Harvard has. So I have gotten to go to the Rare Books Library and actually hold a Shakespeare First Folio and flip through it with like Stephen Greenblatt, who's a fantastic world-renowned Shakespeare scholar, and like just those kind of opportunities that Harvard can give. I've had opportunities to travel places for free. I got to go to China with the archaeology department for a week for free. And like that kind of thing was what ended up selling me on Harvard, is the opportunities that you can get.
Right. You've mentioned money a few times. I would love to talk about that because I think a lot of students get freaked out with how expensive it is. And especially when we look at the sticker prices of so many schools that you've mentioned, you know, it's like craziness.
Yeah.
And for money, was that an issue for you, Mckynzie, as well? Did that play a factor?
It wasn't so much of an issue for me.
Okay.
It was something I was considering. It wasn't like a make or break though.
Okay.
Because my parents could afford to send me where I wanted, without like struggling too much one way or another. What Jamie was saying about Harvard paying for you to go places, though, was also part of it. Like 2 summers ago, I did a summer program in Italy, as with my department, and Harvard paid for that. And it's the way they choose that isn't based on financial need. I think it's random. I think they choose about 50% of the people that apply for it. And if you're if you try to apply at least 1 or 2 times, you're most likely going to get them to pay for a whole summer, and that comes out to like $9,500 or so, and they'll pay for your study abroad over the summer, where you get 8 credits for classes. I was taking like 2 class equivalents in Italy, so it wasn't like the most important thing for me choosing where I wanted to go to college, but it like the fact that they have a lot of support for the things that you do here did make a difference.
That's really wonderful. Andrew, is money a factor for you in your college choices?
So my tuition is a little bit different than theirs. I pay by the class, and it's roughly, I think it's a little less than $2,000 per class now, which is affordable. I've been paying my way through it, and I'll have like a lot less debt. Well, I'll have a little bit of debt coming out of it, but I'll be comfortable with it. It won't be like a mortgage.
Yeah. Are you working? You said you were working, and I'm curious to know what kind of jobs, in case anybody wants to make some money.
I was bartending in the summertime, which was enough to pay for classes and my apartment.
What kind of bar?
I was bartending at a suite in Fenway Park.
Oh, nice.
Well, yeah.
That's got to be fun, right?
It wasn't just in the summer though. I vaguely remember you going.
It was
like,
from April to October.
Yeah.
So you'd be in a suite, like a box, like a luxury box.
It was like a restaurant for people with premium tickets or some.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So you make some good money. And was that a hard job to get?
It wasn't hard to get. I guess I kind of just knew the right people. I was originally busing, and then somebody didn't show up for work, and I took their place. Yeah, no, it was
cool, man. You go to Fenway Park, like you're walking into the stadium to work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it lose? It's a little off topic, but does Fenway lose its charm when it becomes your office?
It gets a different kind of charm. It's very. I definitely felt a part. I felt like a part of the Boston nightlife, which was sometimes scary. But I don't know. I enjoyed it. I look back on it fondly because I'll definitely have like stories to tell. And
I can imagine.
Yeah.
What would you make in it? What would be a really good night? How much would you make?
I used to budget for $200 a night. A good night would be like $400.
So you'd leave with like $200 to $400 in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great job, man.
Yeah,
it
was really good.
Yeah, that's cool. And you meet interesting people and see the games. Jamie, so tell me a little bit. I want those students who are looking at college through the lens of it's too expensive, I can't go, I'm worried about this. I love the idea that you applied. Your parents said just apply. Like there's no harm in applying. But if you can kind of walk me through just what kind of financial assistance they gave you, if you're comfortable sharing that.
Yeah. So initially, when you get an offer from your college, they'll all send you an offer and say, this is how much we feel comfortable giving you. And it's usually in a package of grants and loans. So there's usually a kind of mix. Harvard tries to do as much grant and as little loan as possible. There are some students who take out loans to go to Harvard. Obviously, I can't speak to everyone's financial aid, excuse me, package. Like, I don't know everyone's financial aid package. Harvard has, however, one of the better, if not one of the best, financial aid situations, just because they can't afford that. So initially, I received a financial aid deal from Harvard, and my parents noticed that it was significantly less money granted to me than had been granted to my sister, who is significantly older. She's 6 or 7 grades above me. So it had been a while since she passed through, but my parents' income hadn't changed. So when I went to go visit Harvard, my mom came with me and we scheduled a meeting with the financial aid officer there. And she said, like, here's the situation. here's the offers we got from other schools. Here's the offer we got from you when our oldest child went there. Our income hasn't changed. Like, talk to us. Like, what's the situation here? Right. So I would really recommend, if you don't get a financial aid deal, and then again, I can only really speak to Harvard because there are other schools who are like, here's the offer, take it or leave it. We don't care. But we went in, we had that conversation with our financial aid officer, and they were able to actually work out a deal. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but well, I think the financial aid office is also in and of themselves very encouraging of like, come talk to us. Like, we can try and work together to figure out something, whether that means taking out no interest loans, which Harvard has as an option, I think. Again, this is like, I don't want to promise anything because it's very dependent on your family.
Right, we need to verify all of this. But what
yeah, but I would just, my biggest recommendation is just go talk to your financial aid officer, honestly, because if you go in there and say like this, I can't do this, they might, be like, you know what, we've tried, there's nothing we can do, but they might be able to work with you to try and find something that works best for your family.
Right. So and this is not a news story for Before College TV. We've talked about this, where you take your offers and you walk in and you say, this is what one school offered and this is what we can afford. Can you help us? And the worst thing they're going to say is no. But
I really recommend doing that.
So was it a huge difference? Was it like $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year? Was it a big dramatic?
It wasn't. I don't want to like get someone fired at financial aid, but like they let me go for free. I
don't think anybody would get fired. I think there are so many students who look at college and they say, I can't, it's too expensive. And
I would definitely recommend going. And again, this is everything that's very unique to Harvard too, because Harvard has such a flexible and good financial aid policy for the most part.
Right.
The majority of Harvard students are on financial aid, so that's an important thing to remember, I think, because I think you see the 70,000 or whatever it is now. I don't even know the full price because we don't pay it. But it can be really scary. But it's important to remember that the majority of people there are not paying that.
Right.
There are some people who do. That's important to remember as well, but
you went, you're able to afford it. You're going to be okay. You're not going to be buried in debt.
No.
And it's accessible. So I've got a lot of questions for you. I want to kind of keep moving at a faster pace. Getting in, how hard is it to get in? I know that you weren't really thinking about that, and we know it's hard to get in, but like, can you just speak to Mckynzie, how did you get in? What was your secret? What was your it factor? What was your secret to success?
It was my college essay.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time putting together my essay and my supplemental essay for Harvard. I even filled out the additional information box with another like short essay on the Common App. I think this was a year or two before they expanded the essay to include more prompts, or I think now there's like 7 prompts.
There's a prompt now?
Or you can write.
There's a prompt now?
No, not for the supplemental. For the Common App, it changed.
Okay.
For the Harvard supplemental,
there's no prompt.
Yeah, you could write whatever you want. I told the story of getting lost in the Louvre Museum in Paris because I had spent a summer there in high school. My high school had a study abroad program, which was amazing, and I got lost in the museum because my class had left. And it's a big museum, and I had been there like once before, and I had no idea how to get around. I was like 15 walking around this museum, and I tried to call my professor, and I couldn't understand him on the phone because he doesn't speak any English, so he was trying to explain to me in French. He was like, "Oh, ben, à droite et à gauche," and then I was like, "Oh, I'll just follow a sign and ask someone how to get out." And that was my essay. And my Common App essay was something else, but I think that was probably the strongest factor of my application, because in high school I had not really done the like national competitions and that sort of thing. I sort of did what I wanted. I was involved in a couple clubs on campus. I did improv, I danced, and I did taekwondo, but I wasn't like extremely competitive in all of them. I think the strongest part of my application was I was able to sort of hinge everything together into how it and portray myself as a person in a way I think was easily accessible to an admissions officer. I suppose I think the most important part of an essay is being able to show yourself why you care about the things that you did, because colleges are looking for people who they think will succeed at their college, I suppose. And if I tried to demonstrate that I had like a pretty strong sense of self and that I was going to pursue the things that I wanted, and somehow those reflected aspects of me and my character.
Yeah. When you were writing this essay, was there a particular guide or book or counselor or somebody who helped you to really develop your personal statement to extract those things that could reflect the essence of you as a human being?
My parents, honestly. Since I was young, my parents have always been the people I go to read my writing and report back to me, like whether it's good or not. And they're the most reliable people I know with that. I wrote my like Common Op essay about the fact that people would touch my hair a lot, because I mean this is what it looks like now, but I usually have like really curly sort of frizzy hair if I like wash it and sort of let it out and let it be, and people like to come up and just touch it without asking me sometimes if it looks like that. Not usually if it looks like this. Or if I change it suddenly and it surprises people, they'll come up and touch it. So that was like the framing story of my essay, and I had come up with it at some point and basically wrote the essay, asked one of my parents to read it, and they were like, I think this works, and then let's make sure that it makes sense with what is in the rest of your application, like the activities that you do and stuff. So it was more, it's a little hard to explain without reading it, but it was more a framing story that reflects, I tried to tell a story about my character and weave in different things from my life in the context of this like one anecdote about someone touching my hair, and then how it sparked this conversation and cultural values and things like that.
Well, I think we need to see a picture of you. If you can be so kind as to send me a picture that we can include with this, will you do that so we can see your
I'll try. I don't have a lot of pictures.
We have the
of
one
myself.
from Halloween.
Oh, true. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go find it.
She has quite extravagant hair, I will say.
When we started this interview, Jamie looked at Mckynzie and said, "Your hair," and I had no idea of the significance.
It's usually in like a bun. She usually keeps it on lock.
It's easiest to deal with if I just put it away.
Right. Well, we need to see that. In my ears, I have my ears, which are a prominent feature of my face or my head. So I probably should have written about my ears, which would have been great. I didn't have to write an essay, but that would have been a lot of fun. That's really wonderful. Thanks for sharing that, Jamie. How do you think you got in?
I would say it's similar. I think I put a lot of work and thought and care into the essays that I wrote, but I also will say I know people who got into the college without writing the supplemental essay. They just didn't write it and they got in, so that is possible. I wouldn't, however, bank on that. That is a pretty, that's a move, I will say, to do that. But I would say my biggest advice is to do activities in high school that you love and that you're passionate about, and then find a way to work them into your college application rather than the other way around. Because I think a lot of people fall into the trap of, I'm going to do this for my college application, and then there's no way to write a good essay about that because you don't actually care. So it's much better to find, like, kind of like what Mckynzie said, like, find things you love, even if you're slightly less impressive at them, because that passion, that joy, that's a much more interesting read than like, I was first national champion in my, boxing league or whatever. Like that's good and that's impressive and that's really cool. But if you don't actually care about boxing, no one's going to want to read that essay.
Yeah. I get the feeling with what you both discussed is you cared more about having meaningful experiences than getting into Harvard. And even when it came to making your decision, it was less about I need to go to this place to help define me and fulfill a path that I've been set on. It was more about just you living your life and seeing how the universe unfolded. Is that accurate?
I'd say that's fairly accurate. Yeah, I think I mean I don't want to put anyone down who is one of those like I've had my eyes on Harvard since I was 2, because like go you. I mean, if you've been able to maintain a concrete goal since you were 2 years old, more power to you. That's impressive. But yeah, I will not claim to be one of those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Andrew.
would.
Oh, sorry, Mckynzie.
Oh no, sorry. Um, I think I wasn't really committed to like doing everything as a means to an end in high school. I mean I had pretty high aspirations for college, and I applied to a lot of schools. Not really expecting much. Like I wasn't trying to set super high expectations to myself. Like I definitely didn't go into it thinking I have to get into Harvard and I have to go there. Because if I hadn't gone in, there, was gone somewhere else, and I was planning to go to medical school also from early on. So to me, it was like I'm going to college to have an experience at college, and then I'm going to medical school after that, or I'm going to whatever I'm doing after that. And college should stand on its own, like in my life as that experience, not, I want to go to Harvard specifically. Um, I think, as Jamie said, though, if you have been aspiring to go to Harvard your whole life and you want to work towards that end, that's amazing. And it's just, I think, make sure to enjoy yourself along the way. Like, not even things that you don't think will work well into your college application, they can. And I people have asked me like, oh, is it better to start 5 clubs in high school? Will that help me get into college? And I always I'm like, no, you will spread yourself too thin. You won't like what you're doing. You won't like the amount of time that you don't have. And if you do 1 or 2 things and you really care about them, they will work. People will see that you value them, and like almost anything that you do can help you get to that point.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. And just to kind of fill in your larger experience at Harvard, so you are co-president of the Latin band. So you're in the band. Do you play instruments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I play a couple things. I mostly play percussion.
Yeah.
I have been known to play guitar when we need that. When our singers aren't there, I sing very poorly. No one wants to hear that. But
Right.
yeah.
Well, you'll do that too. And then a board member of Teatro.
Yeah, Teatro was the Latinx arts organization. I was on it because I was a liaison for the Latin band. Latin band like exists sort of under it as some sort of subsidiary. But I, go to board meetings and we try to organize. We like sponsor theatrical productions and musicals
Nice.
and things, and try to work with a lot of theater and music stuff on campus.
Right. And that's great. And then Refresh Bolivia as a student organization. You do public health work with Bolivia, and then a research assistant at Systems Neuroscience Psychopathology Lab.
Yeah, I'm a neuropsych research assistant in the neuropsych lab.
And a member of a former rock band.
Yeah, I really like rock.
Right. And I share all this because if somebody is watching this and they are interested in any of these things, you have dabbled in it. And as a senior, you have great insight into this. Andrew, I'm going to get to you in just 1 second, but I have one more question while I have you, Mckynzie, about organics. I know you took these classes, and some people say that it's torture, it's hell. Tell me about your organic. Did you fail any organic tests, quizzes? Did you ever question your ability?
Yes. Did I fail an organic test? I don't know if I quite failed.
I don't think you ever failed.
I don't
You
think
came
I.
pretty
I
close.
don't
But
think
you
I failed.
questioned your worthiness and ability, because I
have very nearly failed exams in college.
Right.
I try to fail the ones where you have like 3 midterms and they drop 1. So it's like semi-strategic. Organic chemistry, I didn't find organic chemistry easy. I had like started to take that class once and dropped it, and then took it again the next year. Like I dropped it for the ad drop deadline, so it didn't even show up on my transcript one year because took it for a couple weeks, and I was like,
Just kicked your ass.
it was the I think the I don't know what to say about this. I think the entire teaching staff had changed, and it was very disorganized. It was like the first year everyone who was organizing it had tried to teach it that year.
Gotcha.
First year I took it, and it was confusing. I had like a section leader who I didn't understand. She was like too talented at chemistry to explain it to me in a way that I understood. She was literally just too smart and understood chemistry too intuitively to explain it to me. So I tried it again next year, and it was fine. It's a lot of work. It's something that you have to practice consistently to be good at, and I know that's what everyone who takes chemistry tells you, but it's like you either memorize like every possible mechanism, or you just like exist with some sort of intuitive understanding of how they work. And the professors will tell you, you don't need to memorize anything to do this class. If you understand the chemistry, it'll all come to you.
Right.
And I think for most people that is not true. Like it's very hard to get to that point of just understanding without a lot of memorization before that. But then I took biochemistry this semester, which is like a more biology focused, but still very mechanistically chemistry heavy class. And I found that a lot easier. And I sort of enjoyed it more because it seemed more practical, but it's not a walk in the park, let's say.
Right. Oh, there's a Malcolm Gladwell book that they quote someone who said Harvard turned me from a doctor to a lawyer. So the classes
I can see that happening.
Yeah, because you're in this very small world where there's so many people who are used to achieving, and then when you struggle, all of a sudden you question your abilities, which I think in an environment where you're around so many high achievers, that could be really challenging. Andrew, tell me some of the classes that you took, that you've taken, that have been like some of the most meaningful for you. So if there are people who are interested in pursuing some of those, they'll have access.
I really appreciate it. I took a class on ethics that I really enjoyed. I really like my philosophy classes.
Who taught it? Give me like as many specifics as possible if you can.
I don't remember.
That's okay.
I don't remember, which sucks because I really liked the professor. But I took a class on ethics that I really enjoyed. I took a class on recently, the past semester, I took a class on literary theory with Professor Andrew Warren, which I really liked. I took a class on formal logic that I think was very useful for writing essays and making any kind of project or assignment where we had to make an argument. I feel like taking that class alone like helped me do that much better. Yeah, I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Just those classes, because as you're explaining before, through the program, you have access to a lot of these classes, and other people may have access to these classes and to these incredible professors, and also working in study groups with other people. Andrew, what's been the hardest part of your experience, the most challenging part for you during your college experience, and how did you get through it?
I think so. In the extension, I think there's definitely. It seems to me that I'm getting, I have access to the resources at the cost of like a lot of the social aspects that people expect or enjoy from college. I get through that by kind of showing up and trying to put myself into positions where I'll need to be working on projects often, or I don't know, just making an effort to kind of put myself out there. Other difficulties, I'm not sure.
Socially, it's been a little bit challenging.
Yeah, I think socially, like yeah, it's there's not a very social community in extension. I also think we have limited access. So I have an ID, I have a Harvard ID that I'm not really sure how it works, but I only get access to certain buildings, and It's very inconsistent as to which I can get into and which I can't. But last fall I was stage managing a show that my friend was putting on. So I was in charge of finding like rehearsal space and, like organizing kind of people's schedules and stuff, which was incredibly difficult with my like inconsistent access to things.
Right.
So I had to spend a lot of time like sending emails and playing phone tag just to get a space for 30 minutes, which is infuriating.
What's very interesting to see, I mean, going that extension route and then being involved with the community is a really unique experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems one that puts you in the places where you're around all these people and experiencing that. The Shakespeare, Jamie, I know Shakespeare and performing is really important to you. You come from a arts school, an arts background. So how did you get involved with Shakespeare? Was it hard to get involved with? Did you have to try out? Did you get rejected 5 times?
For the Shakespeare organization, not particularly. Hyperion prides itself on being super inclusive. So we have a show every semester where everyone who auditions gets a role, guaranteed. Like, that's how committed to it we are. Like, we're much more about just kind of bringing Shakespeare into the community and like letting everyone kind of experience it how they want to experience it, kind of. But certainly I've definitely been rejected from other shows that I've auditioned for. One of my friends jokes that I'm always a bridesmaid because the way casting works at Harvard is like they list their top choice and then they list like 3 people. Like if the first one says no, the next one. And I am consistently in the list of like the top 3 people, but I've never actually I've gotten cast a couple times, but not like consistently. So that's been frustrating.
Right. And you're used to being in high school, you're probably the lead, I would imagine.
No, actually,
No?
the way theater works is it's very subjective. Sometimes you get a bigger role, sometimes you get a smaller role, and that can have nothing to do with your talent or ability. It can just have to do with like they wanted a shorter person. You don't really ever know.
I'd get that role. It's good to know.
Yeah, so it's I don't know. I think doing theater has definitely prepared me for some of the challenges that I think a lot of other students face at Harvard, because I think a lot of other students face the issue of like, I've succeeded my whole life and now I'm in a pool with everyone who has also succeeded their whole life, and oh my gosh, I'm not always going to be number one, and what am I going to do? And that kind of spiral I've always been able to kind of avoid because I'm so used to, I grew up in theater, so like I understand that sometimes you just don't win and it has nothing to do with you. Or maybe it does have to do with you and you have to get better and you have to try again, but you never really know. Like it could be you didn't do the monologue well, or it could literally be they wanted someone shorter.
Right.
You obviously can't control. So I don't know. I just try to have that mindset when I go into anything. Like maybe I could have done better, or maybe it just had nothing to do with anything I can control.
Yeah, well, that is a great attitude that I think a lot of people struggle with. So I think the theater background, I'm from that same background, and the rejection piece and giving people permission to not want me, knowing I still have value.
Yeah.
It's been an exercise that I've had to conduct my entire life. And as an adult still, working through that. I want to conclude this and wrap this up, but I do want to know the social life. And I think, Jamie, what you were talking about of so many people who go to Harvard, they haven't experienced not being the best and then start questioning themselves. And I know at a lot of highly selective schools, students work hard and they party hard. They, a lot of extracurricular activities around alcohol and other substances. What's it like on a weekend? Can you be sober at Harvard and still have an active social life?
Mckynzie, can we be sober at Harvard? Yes, I make that joke because Mckynzie and I have spent many a weekend in our room in our pajamas, like watching The Office. Yes, I will say there's definitely spaces for all kinds of social levels at Harvard. There's a variety of like social scenes that I don't think any of us here are present in, so we may not be the best people to ask.
Like what social scenes, or what are some of the alternatives?
The whole like final club scene, which is kind of like Harvard's version of fraternities. It's very complicated, so I won't get into it. There's been lawsuits and stuff, so just
there are other social organizations too that aren't final clubs, that do,
yeah,
they mostly just party together.
Yeah, there's like co-ed sororities and fraternities that are socially oriented. One of our, Mckynzie and my roommates, is in one of those co-ed fraternities that is just kind of like a social group.
Yeah.
But there's also like, you know, like for chiller events, like I know Andrew in my organization, we have like socials, but it's not really like, they're not ragers.
Relaxing.
It's
Or
like,
not
it's
relaxing,
like,
but less active than, you know.
yeah, it's just kind of like, let's have snacks and drinks and chill and,
Right.
you know, and chat with people and get to know people better. But there's also like a much more hardcore party scene if you want that.
So you can make whatever choice you want, and you can
Yeah, and there's
find
also a
fun.
lot of universities nearby too. Like a lot of people go to parties at MIT or go to parties at Tufts or even go into Boston. So it's you know, up to you. You choose
Right.
your party adventure.
Right. Well, I love that you can do that and have that option. I want to wrap things up with one more question, and I have so many more, but I want to respect your time. And I know if anybody has questions that they have for the panel, again, I want you to reach out. They said, again, you know, you guys are open to questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely are. Yeah, which is wonderful. So the question is, if you could go back to high school, your first year in high school, and tell yourself, hey, there's something that you're going to worry about a lot. And the thing is, I don't want you to worry about it. And you don't need to worry about it. In fact, this is a big waste of your time. And it can be related to anything. It could be something we talked about or something that we don't know about you, because you have so many interesting components and aspects to your life. And I'm going on a little bit long with the question to give you more time to think of that thing. So I'm being extra wordy to give you that space. So what's something that you had worried about in high school that you didn't need to worry about in college? And let's start with, Jamie, you seem like you're ready.
Well, the way you rephrase it at the end, something I worried about in high school that I wouldn't need to worry about in college. I think this is not universally true, but in high school, I feel like for the most part, people are definitely still figuring themselves out in a way that can cause them to lash out towards other people, so that, you know, you're going to be dealing with a lot more cattiness or just insecurity. And that definitely exists in college, but I feel like once people get to college, they kind of mellow out a little bit. So it's that idea of like the social unrest that you have to deal with in high school, where it's like, does this person like me? Am I being nice enough? Am I, you know, doing this right? And that kind of calms in college in a way that's very helpful, or at least was for me. Like you find your people, and then that's kind of, you know, you don't have to worry about it so much anymore. There's no like popular kids in college, or like, you know, well, we go to Harvard, so everyone's a nerd. Like, that's fine. there's the kind of like borders of who's who in the social order dissolve a little bit, which is nice.
Right. So worrying about what other people think.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie and say like you don't worry about what other people think, because that's what it means to be a person, and that's what all people do. But I think just the rigidness of what is my place and where do I belong, that kind of mellows a little bit.
Yeah, that's gives people hope. It's a wonderful thing.
Yes,
especially at Harvard, thinking that dissolves away is a comforting thought. I know a lot of people will enjoy. Andrew, what's something you worried about that you didn't need to worry about?
I think I agree with Jamie a lot. I think I would have had a much easier or nicer time in high school if I just like didn't care so much. You know, you obviously still care about how you're perceived, but in high school, I feel like that often involved like being mean or making sure you like set yourself apart from that clique. I think also in high school, I just worried far too much about things that weren't really important. Not necessarily socially, but, you know, kind of like, oh, I need to get this project done now and I need to get it done well. And I'm fine. Like, worrying doesn't help. Being stressed doesn't really help.
Yeah. I have another question. I know I said it was my last one, but why do you love Shakespeare so much?
I like the writing. I think, you know, I guess that's a given. But I think it's incredibly intuitive. I think it's, you know, it sounds nice. The drama is interesting. The stories. I'm also a big history nerd.
Yeah.
So
you never get tired of it. I mean, it sounds like, in all fairness, I should ask you too, Jamie. Jamie, why do you love Shakespeare so much?
I look to Shakespeare for a lot of answers to like bigger questions. I think he was a writer who was very in touch with, you know, the kind of questions we have as humans for what humanity is and what it means to be a person. And there's a lot of, he puts into words a lot of universal emotions. So it's nice to kind of read it and find like, oh, like that's how I was feeling, but I didn't know how to describe it. And he has a way of putting those moments into words that I quite like. And I always find a new one when I watch a play. I'm not a big fan of reading Shakespeare, which Andrew knows, which is a bit surprising considering I'm the president of the Shakespeare organization. But I think watching and or listening and or like following along while you're listening, that's the key.
Maybe that would have been the trick for me.
Yeah, I think making kids sit in a room and read Shakespeare is setting them up to fail.
That's why I had this aversion, because it didn't feel good and I didn't understand it.
And it wasn't meant to, you're not meant to sit and read it. He wrote it so that people could go and experience it, could see it, could hear it, could
That's so
smell it.
interesting.
The only people that would have read it would have been the actors.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's watching this who has an aversion to Shakespeare or struggles when reading these great masterpieces that were meant to be performed, watch them, listen to them.
Yes.
And it's not cheating if you have the book and you go
check out Hyperion on Facebook and Instagram. We have lots of fun resources.
We're going to share that.
It also has a way of humanizing Shakespeare and finding in it like meaning that I didn't when I, you know, have read Shakespeare in the past. And it's I think you have to look at it from Jamie's perspective of this is a writer who had a lot of human experiences and actually has a lot to say. And I agree. I think it comes across better when you listen to it because it comes across with the, you know, with the passion and meaning that it was intended to be spoken.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad I got that in because that's just that's just such great information. I'm excited about it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to like do some Shakespeare. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
I'm going to do it out loud. Okay. And then follow along. So Mckynzie, what's something that you wish you had not worried about in high school?
That's a hard question because there are a lot of things that I worry about in college. And I think a lot more things I've gotten over worrying about in the last 2-3 years than I actually did in high school. I think I guess it would be just making the wrong choice. Like I got to, you know, college decisions and the thing I was most afraid of and probably definitely overthought a lot after I made a decision where I go to college was, did I make the right choice? And especially if you are the type of person that spends a lot of high school thinking about where you're going to go to college and how things are going to end up in your life, and you can plan your life out, you know, 10-15 years in advance. I tend to do that because I'm like, how many years am I going to spend in medical school and in residency? And Jamie knows this. I've calculated this out till I'm 36, 37 years old. But you know, like you make a choice and you will end up going somewhere. And no matter where that is, there is a way to embrace where you are, do something with that situation. If you don't like it, you will end up somewhere else in a couple years down the road. And like things, you know, like even I tried to plan out classes really far in advance. Things never work.
We went through the whole thing. You're going to come back. Because it always turns out, it's so perfect because everything turns out, everything is okay. It always works out. And I know with Mckynzie, it's going to work out. She will be back with us. And this is just, she might even be doing this on purpose to create more drama.
She's just holding really still.
With this poignant moment.
Turn me.
Oh, this is great.
Wait. Did that work?
Yes,
oh,
that
this is
worked.
great. You know what? I know we've gone so over, but I just have one more question for you, and I'll edit this and post. But Mckynzie, you are such a planner. Okay, what's going to happen in the fall? Are you guys coming back to Harvard in the fall?
I don't know. You know what? This is something I actually spoke at length about this in my psychology class. I'm taking a psychology class with Professor Josh Buchholz, who runs the lab I'm a research assistant in. And if there's a piece of wisdom he has wish I could impart upon more of my friends who are less of planners than I am, but more about the fall than I am. It's that like we don't know what's going to happen. School also does not know what's going to happen. Sometimes I think they act as if they do because there's a lot of pressure from students to be open and transparent about, you know, the process of their decision making and what their options are and laying everything out on the table. When I don't think there's a way for them to make a completely informed decision right now because we're not there yet. My personal feeling on it, the last couple weeks I've tried to treat it as, you know, when I know what the options are, I'll be able to make a decision sure that there's no real way to plan for it in any meaningful way other than like sending myself spiraling in circles. And I've already thought through all the possible scenarios, and after that there was not much I could do. I mean, I could stay in school and it's going to be online. I could stay in school and they're going to try to send us back in person, which seems like an interesting, perhaps not as well thought out idea as it's coming across. I could, you know, take a year off or a semester off and come back later. And like one way or another, in the long term, I'm gonna end up where I end up. And there's always something to do if I'm in school or not in school. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone really knows right now. People are trying to be like, you know, very sure about the decisions they're making, and I don't think there's a way to do that. So I know Professor Buckholt said radical acceptance is the way to go. That's what I'm trying to do.
Radical acceptance. I love that.
Yep.
I think that's a wonderful way to approach life, knowing that we're going to be okay no matter what, and we'll get to where we're supposed to go. So along the way, enjoy it, don't stress, as I know Jamie and Andrew were just saying, and we'll all get there. And with that, I want to thank all my panelists. Thank you, Jamie, Andrew, Mckynzie. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful for your time and your generosity to allow those who are interested in your lives to enter it and ask you questions. So if anybody has any feedback or questions, reach out to our panelists. If you have any questions for me, I'm always open to hearing from you. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for being with us on Before College TV with our Harvard student panelists. I'm Harlan Cohen. We'll continue this conversation. Thanks, everybody.